Good boy. No, not that film. Get that away. We're talking Good Boy 2025. If you want a short answer, I'll give you a short answer. And that short answer is Good Boy is a great movie. Now, unfortunately for you, I am not here for short answers. Now, this review is going to be mainly spoiler free. I'm going to get into a little bit of a theory about the ending near the end of the video. So I will warn you when that comes up, but this is going to be spoiler free for the most part. So let's get into Good Boy. Like I said, I'm not here to give you short answers. I'm here to tell you exactly what I love about this movie. And this movie just allows me to go full nerd. I genuinely have to try and find the words to truly describe why I love this movie so much. Good Boy is a horror movie that is basically told from the perspective of a dog. And it has a perfect runtime. It is just over an hour long, 73 minutes. Perfect, beautiful runtime. So the premise is simple. It's really kind of just your standard supernatural horror setup. You have the dog, whose name is Indy, and then you have his owner, Todd. And, from the story, you can tell that Todd isn't really like the best guy out there. So Todd ends up going to his grandfather's house, which his sister, Vera, I think is how her name is said. She keeps warning him that the house is cursed. Indy the dog is phenomenal. Get that dog an Oscar. The filmmakers did an incredible job. And Ben is a great director. Now, obviously, Indy's not acting per se. It's clever cinematography and lighting that is making you feel what you're feeling. You are projecting your emotions onto the dog, which is making that much more powerful. Like all the shots of Indy and just how they're conveying this emotion in the movie with him is incredible. And the way they got the dog to do exactly what they wanted with each of the shots is insanely impressive and incredibly time consuming. So, director Ben Leonberg, I think is how you pronounce the last name, he's Indy's owner. And he ends the movie with like a thank you message right at the very end, and some behind the scenes footage, of getting Indy to look in certain directions. He's like quacking at Indy, getting him to run certain ways with little fake Indy dolls, like etc. You can tell Indy's obviously, he doesn't know he's in a movie. He's a dog, but the way Ben is working with Indy is so impressive. The way him and his wife, Carrie Fisher, hilarious, by the way, Carrie Fisher. But that was all a culmination of 3 years of filming. All the POV shots are from Indy's perspective. This movie is all through a dog's eyes. That's why you're hardly ever seeing human faces, and that's why Ben and Carrie play the human characters themselves. And then with that, the entire movie is essentially ADR. All the dialogue is recorded in post with the actors that they had. While filming, they're just making noises and giving Indy certain commands. All the people you see in the film are Ben and Carrie. And then the voices are then dubbed over afterwards if you don't know what ADR is. The filmmaking on this is beautiful. They called it at the end of the film with this little behind the scenes clip that they had. They essentially called it like a family project. And it is. It's truly a family project that just shines through on the big screen. And with the film itself, how they do it, like the tension in this film is wild. It feels so unpredictable because you don't know when a jump scare is coming or if they're going to scare Indy, because Ben's obviously not going to scare Indy or subject Indy to certain things. So you don't know if something's just going to like pop up in your face or in the background. It's all this slow supernatural like tension that's just keeping you on edge with how they do the film, and it is so good. All right, so this is where I'm gonna get in slightly into spoilers, basically about the film's premise. So if you want to avoid that and avoid this theory, skip ahead to the timestamp on screen now. Uh, at first, I thought Todd maybe was like a drug addict, or maybe something happened at the hospital. Maybe he overdosed on some medication. But after sitting with the movie, reading through some other people's theories a bit, it's really reminding me and giving me a similar vibe of Before I Wake. If you haven't seen that, I guess spoilers for Before I Wake too. But in Before I Wake, the monster in that is called the Canker Man. But this is actually a child's personification of cancer, because the kid doesn't understand what cancer is. They just know it took their mom. So it becomes this monster in their mind, and the premise of Before I Wake is essentially, the kid dreams, and whatever he dreams comes to life, and that's where the Canker Man comes from. But with that, I feel like that is something similar going on here with Indy, because Indy is a dog. He doesn't understand what's happening to his owner, Todd. And remind you, this whole film is from the dog's perspective. So from the symptoms that Todd is showing, along with what we see from the grandfather, it seems like maybe it's just an illness that has been passed down through generations. I've seen people saying that it was lung cancer or even something similar. So with that like black sludge monster that Indy keeps seeing, that is supposed to be this supernatural presence, could just be his perception of the illness. No, Indy can't comprehend lung cancer, so it becomes this visual monster instead, meaning that there is no actual supernatural presence in the film. It's all just Indy watching his owner get sicker each day and eventually pass away. And obviously Todd is struggling with all of this too. And I don't remember which comes first, but we don't see Indy encounter Todd's grandpa's dog until either he sniffs the old bandana that the dog wore, or that he sees the dog in the home video footage. Like I said, I don't remember which happens first. But like I said, Indy doesn't see that dog until that happens, which again clues in that it's not the dog's spirit running around. It is all in essentially Indy's head and what Indy is seeing. And plus Grandpa didn't, you know, Grandpa made it pretty far in age, hinting that this is just an illness and not a curse, because if you're living in a cursed house, you're not really going to make it that long. And then at the end of the movie, Todd does pass away. And then this sludge demon thing basically merges with Todd. He then deteriorates into a skeleton and disappears. But upstairs, as we saw, his real body is lying in bed, lifeless. And there's no fear, there's no screaming, no sense of like a demonic possession. He just looks at Indy. This is the first time we see like a human's full face. And he just tells him that he is a good boy, that he's a good dog. And he does, unfortunately, tell Indy that you can't save me. You can't save him before he then fades away as a, deteriorating skeleton. But hey, that's just a theory. But there is a lot of evidence backing that up. So welcome back if you skipped ahead, but this is an incredible indie film with a ton of passion behind it. You can feel the love and the dedication from all 3 years of filming, that Ben spent with Indy, with Carrie, his family. They call it a family project, and it shows, it shines through on the screen. It is visually spectacular. Aside from the said sludge monster in the film that is like a sludge demon or something, I think aside from that, there's very little CGI. I couldn't find any confirmation, but I'd be curious, if that sludge demon was maybe even practical with a little bit of CGI touches. Indy, there is no CGI. The only time that there is, you know, some VFX is when Indy jumps out a window, because obviously Ben's not going to have his real dog jump out of a window, jump through glass, even if it's fake glass, and Indy probably wouldn't even do that if it was fake glass. But if you love like the behind the scenes of the filmmaking, all the details, if you're a film major, if you're a filmmaker yourself, I highly recommend watching this film if you have not already. This is genuinely an unintentional love letter to filmmaking itself. And that's just solely through the time, the effort, the passion, everything behind this film. This movie truly is something really, really special. So with all that being said, if you made it this far and you still have not subscribed, why not? You're already here. Thank you all so much for tuning in here today. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like, because it really does help out the channel so much. And I will see you all in the next one. I was a good boy. Peace.